A local councillor sits at home watching the most popular TV show in Britain. He's a fan, like millions of others. 4 days later, he's receiving death threats from around the world. Within months, he quits his job. When asked why, he says 2 words: Clarkson Farm. An elderly woman who's lived in her village for decades can no longer safely cross the road outside her home. She moves away. The reason? Clarkson Farm. Emergency services can't get through. Residents miss their COVID vaccinations. 3-mile traffic jams become the norm. All because of a TV show about a man who claims to have made £144 profit from farming. That same man just signed a deal worth £200 million with Amazon. This is the dark side of Clarkson Farm. Before I go any further, I want to be clear. I'm not here to tell you Clarkson Farm is a bad show. Millions love it. It's won awards. Farmers say it's done more for British agriculture in 4 series than Countryfile managed in 30 years. But there's a story that Amazon doesn't show you. A story about what happens when the cameras stop rolling and the crew goes home, but the fans keep coming and coming and coming. Let's start with Chadlington. It's a quiet village in the Cotswolds, population around 600. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where life moves slowly, where the biggest drama is usually someone's escaped sheep. Then, in June 2021, Clarkson Farm premiered. Within weeks, the village was unrecognisable. Diddley Squat Farm Shop, which on the show appears to be a charming local operation, became a tourist destination. Not dozens of visitors, not hundreds, thousands, every single day. Cars lined the narrow country lanes for miles. Grass verges were destroyed. Supercar engines revving became, in the words of one resident, the norm. The village that had existed peacefully for centuries was suddenly under siege. But it wasn't just inconvenient, it was dangerous. Emergency services reported they couldn't get through. An ambulance that might take 10 minutes was now taking 30. Residents trying to reach medical appointments were stuck in traffic caused by people who had driven hours to buy a candle with Jeremy Clarkson's face on it. One elderly woman, a resident of the sheltered housing in the village, made a decision that breaks my heart every time I think about it. She moved away. After years of living there, she no longer felt safe crossing the road outside her own home. Let that sink in. A pensioner forced out of her community because a TV show made her village unlivable. And here's what makes this worse. This wasn't a surprise. After Series 1 aired, the chaos was obvious to everyone. The production company saw it, Amazon saw it, Clarkson definitely saw it. They made 3 more series anyway. Now, defenders will say this isn't Clarkson's fault. He can't control where people drive, he can't stop fans from visiting, and that's partially true. But here's what he could control: the story he told. Because Clarkson Farm isn't a documentary. And this isn't me saying that. This is Dean Temple, the councillor who received those death threats. His exact words. The TV show is entertainment and people don't understand that it's not a documentary. What do they call Made in Chelsea? Scripted reality. It pushes a certain narrative and idea, and it's framed and edited in a certain way. Scripted reality. Remember that phrase. Let me show you what that means in practice. Throughout the show, Clarkson battles the local council. They're portrayed as bureaucratic villains, blocking his every move with red tape and ridiculous objections. In one famous scene, his restaurant application is rejected partly because of concerns about dark skies, protecting the area from light pollution. The show presents this as absurd. Clarkson mocks it. Viewers at home shake their heads at the idiocy of local government. But here's what the show didn't tell you. That planning meeting, it ran for over an hour. The dark skies objection was, according to the council's official statement, a very small part of the overall discussion and was not the reason for refusal. What was the reason? Multiple legitimate planning concerns that were carefully discussed by councillors doing their jobs. But that wouldn't make good television, would it? Here's another thing the show never mentioned. Clarkson could have built his restaurant legally. There was land on the other side of the road, outside the area of outstanding natural beauty, where he could have done almost anything he wanted without planning permission battles. But he didn't build there. Why? Because according to Temple, that wouldn't make good telly. The conflict was the content. The council were cast as villains because the show needed villains, and millions of viewers believed it, which brings us back to those death threats. Dean Temple was elected to the council in May 2021. Clarkson's Farm premiered in June 2021. Within days, his life changed. "I was sitting there watching it as a fan," he said. "All of a sudden, I was getting calls, death threats." He had to close his Facebook Messenger after 4 days. The abuse came from around the world. People who had never been to Chadlington, never met Temple, never understood the complexity of rural planning law, decided he was the enemy because a TV show told them he was. He wasn't alone. Multiple councillors faced what one described as nasty threats. They had their personal phone numbers and home addresses removed from public websites, standard practice for councillors to be accessible to constituents, now impossible because of safety concerns. Councillor Liam Walker said simply, "It got quite nasty to be fair, lots of threats towards councillors." Temple eventually quit. When asked if Clarkson's Farm was the reason, he didn't hesitate. 100%. Think about that. A man who volunteered to serve his community, driven out by harassment from fans of a television programme. And what was Clarkson's response to all this? What did the show do to address the damage it was causing to real people's lives? They made another series, and another. Now, let's talk about money, because this is where the gap between the show and reality becomes almost laughable. In Series 1, Clarkson reveals his annual profit from Diddley Squat Farm, £144. The image is clear, farming is brutal, the margins are impossible, Clarkson is struggling just like every other British farmer. Series 3 showed a better year, £72,000 profit, still modest, still relatable, still the struggling everyman fighting against the system. But here's what the show doesn't mention. Between 2020 and 2022, Diddley Squat Farm received over £250,000 in government subsidies. That's £133,000 from the basic payment scheme and another £116,000 from environmental stewardship programmes. These payments aren't unusual, most British farms receive them. But when you're building a narrative around your tiny profit margins, leaving out £250,000 in guaranteed income is a pretty significant omission. Then there's the Amazon deal itself. Reports suggest Clarkson's agreement with Amazon for Clarkson's Farm is worth between £160 million and £200 million. Let me say that again, up to £200 million. For context, Clarkson's personal net worth is estimated at £55 to £60 million. The farm itself, which he bought for around £6 million in 2008, is now valued at over £12 million. And then there's Hawkstone, his beer brand. In 2024, it generated over £21 million in revenue. It's the fastest growing brewery in Britain. It made the Sunday Times Fast Track 100 list. The Farmer's Dog, his pub, employs 146 people and required over £1 million in investment. Clarkson himself once said, and this is a direct quote, that he could earn more from selling my toenail clippings than farming. So when the show presents him as a struggling farmer making £144 a year, fighting against a system that won't let him survive, you have to ask, who is this story really for? Because it's not for actual farmers, who know the economics don't work like that. It's not for rural communities who are dealing with the consequences of the tourism it generates. It's entertainment, scripted reality, a narrative carefully constructed to make you root for the hero and hate the villains. The problem is the villains are real people and they're still paying the price. Now, I want to be fair here, because despite everything I've just told you, there's another side to this story. Jeremy Clarkson has arguably done more to raise awareness of farming issues than any other public figure in Britain. The National Farmers Union named him their Farming Champion of the Year in 2021. James Rebanks, an actual sheep farmer and author, said Clarkson had done more for farming in one series than 30 years of Country File. The show has highlighted genuine problems, the impossibility of making ends meet, the complexity of regulations, the physical toll of agricultural work. It's made millions of people who never thought about farming suddenly care about it. Clarkson's Clause, an actual legal change that made farm diversification easier, exists partly because of the attention the show brought to these issues. Hawkstone beer supports British barley farmers. The pub employs local people. The farm shop, for all the chaos it causes, sells local produce. This isn't a simple story of hero versus villain. It never is. But here's what I keep coming back to. You can do good things and cause harm at the same time. You can raise awareness about farming while making a village unlivable. You can champion agricultural workers while treating local councillors as punchlines. You can tell an important story while leaving out the parts that don't fit your narrative. Clarkson Farm is the most successful British factual show in Amazon's history. It will likely run for years to come, generating hundreds of millions in revenue and attracting millions more visitors to a village of 600 people. The councillor who received death threats won't be coming back. The elderly woman who moved away won't be coming back. The community that existed before June 2021 won't be coming back. Jeremy Clarkson will keep playing the struggling farmer. Amazon will keep writing the checks. And every few months, a new series will drop, and millions will watch, and the cars will line up on those country lanes again. Dean Temple called it scripted reality, a show that pushes a certain narrative, framed and edited in a certain way. The show needs you to believe Jeremy Clarkson is fighting the system. The truth is, Jeremy Clarkson is the system. A multi-millionaire playing dress-up as a farmer, turning a quiet English village into a theme park, and laughing all the way to the bank. £200 million for playing the underdog. £144 profit. That's the dark side of Clarkson's Farm.